It's late at night, the room has a calm, slightly tense atmosphere, maybe a studio or T.I.'s living room. Soft, suspenseful music plays in the background, setting the mood. T.I. is sitting with his phone or laptop, scrolling through clips, initially relaxed. But as he clicks on a clip of D.L., Hughley talking about King Harris's future, his expression shifts calm, turns into concern, and concern slowly becomes frustration. If King Harris doesn't stay careful on his path, he could face some serious challenges and maybe even end up in situations like jail. T.I.'s eyes widen. He feels a mix of shock and anger, yet he takes a deep breath to control himself. Then his voiceover begins. Some predictions are just speculation or jokes, but when someone mentions jail with a young man's name, it becomes personal. And this isn't just about King Harris, it hits me too. The scene shows T.I. putting his phone aside, lost in thought. Social media notifications flash across the far. Screen comments, emojis, fan reactions, raising tension and curiosity. The audience immediately understands that this story isn't just gossip, it's serious and personal. The tone of the scene is suspenseful, leaving viewers with a single burning question. What will T.I. do next? The next day, the scene shifts to a quieter, reflective atmosphere. T.I. is at his home studio, sitting among awards, posters, and memorabilia that remind him of his journey and battles in the music industry. He's scrolling through clips, tweets, and news articles. Fans and media are already reacting to D.L. Hughley's prediction. Some comments are curious, some critical, and some worry King Harris might actually be in trouble. Here, the story introduces the three main characters, all fictionalized. T.I. is established as a careful, respected figure, someone who rarely reacts impulsively but always defends those he cares about. King Harris is a young, rising artist, talented, but still learning the ropes of fame and public scrutiny. He is unaware of how serious the online reactions have become. D.L. Hughley, on the other hand, is portrayed as a bold, outspoken commentator, someone who often mixes humor with social commentary, but sometimes crosses lines without realizing the personal impact. The setup clearly shows the stakes. T.I. feels the prediction isn't just a harmless comment. It could affect King Harris's reputation, mental state, and future opportunities. He discusses the situation with close friends and team members, weighing whether to respond publicly or handle it privately. Through internal thoughts and conversations, T.I. reveals his protective nature and the seriousness of the situation. This section also shows how the digital world amplifies even a small prediction. Headlines, notifications, and fan theories spread like wildfire. King Harris, completely unaware, continues working on music, while T.I. sits silently, feeling the weight of responsibility. The audience begins to understand the tension. This isn't just a clash of opinions, it's about influence, reputation, and the very real consequences of words spoken in public. By the end of this segment, viewers understand the relationships, the stakes, and why T.I.'s upcoming reaction will be critical. The story builds anticipation, preparing the audience for the rising action where tension will escalate further. The tension begins to rise as T.I. decides he can no longer ignore the situation. Over the next few days, he becomes more engaged with the online chatter, reading through fan reactions, media posts, and comments about King Harris. Some messages are supportive, but many are judgmental, amplifying the prediction and speculating about his future. The digital noise grows louder, and T.I. feels a responsibility not only to defend King Harris, but also to set the record straight. Meanwhile, King Harris is oblivious to the storm brewing around him. He's focused on music, rehearsals, and interviews, unaware of how much the public and media have latched on to Hughley's comment. Scenes show him laughing with his team, practicing verses, and casually posting on social media, which contrasts sharply with T.I.'s growing worry. This contrast builds tension. The audience senses that an explosion is coming. T.I. begins to plan his response carefully. He discusses options with his closest advisors and friends. Should he respond on social media, give an interview, or release a public statement? The story highlights T.I.'s internal struggle. He wants to be protective, but doesn't want to escalate things unnecessarily. His calm exterior masks the simmering frustration inside. The rising action reaches a peak when T.I. posts his first response. It starts measured and polite, defending King Harris while warning about the power of words. Fans immediately notice the post, sparking massive engagement. Thousands of comments, shares, and reactions flood in. Some supporters cheer him on, while others question if he's overreacting. Tension escalates further as D.L. Hughley notices T.I.'s response, hinting at the possibility of a public exchange. At this point, the story makes it clear that the conflict is no longer just a prediction. It has become personal, emotional, and highly visible. The stakes are not just about reputation, but also about influence, mentorship, and respect. The audience is fully invested, wondering how T.I. will handle the situation without letting it spiral out of control. The story reaches its peak tension as T.I. decides it's time to address the issue directly. He schedules a live podcast appearance, giving him the platform to speak clearly, calmly, and without interruptions. The atmosphere is charged. The audience, both fictional and implied, feels the gravity of the moment. T.I. opens by acknowledging D.L. Hughley's influence and past work, showing that his approach is measured and professional. He doesn't attack personally at first, which immediately establishes credibility and authority. Then, T.I. shifts to the heart of the matter. He defends King Harris, emphasizing the dangers of public speculation about someone's life. He speaks about responsibility, influence, and the real impact words can have on a young artist's reputation and mental state. T.I.'s tone is firm but controlled, his words deliberate. It's clear this is personal, yet he maintains respect and professionalism. His voice conveys both frustration and care, making the audience feel the weight of the situation. The confrontation becomes more intense as T.I. references the prediction directly, breaking down why such comments are harmful. He shares examples of situations where public speculation has led to real-world consequences, without naming real people, keeping it fictional yet realistic. The story emphasizes his protective nature, not just as a mentor, but as someone who understands the power of influence in the digital age. Fans, online observers, and media within the story react instantly. The engagement is explosive. Social media posts, retweets, and comments flood in, reflecting admiration for T.I.'s stance and sparking debates. The fictional D.L. Hughley responds either with reflection or light humor, which adds tension but also keeps the exchange from becoming overly hostile. The audience sees a balance: confrontation, accountability, and respect, all unfolding in a believable human way. By the end of the climax, the confrontation has clearly defined the stakes. Words carry power, mentorship matters, and defending someone's reputation can be both personal and public. The audience is left on edge, fully invested in what happens next, wondering how the aftermath will unfold. After the intense confrontation, the tension begins to settle, but the impact of T.I.'s response is still very much felt. Social media is buzzing, some people praise him for speaking up, while others debate whether the situation should have become so public. Headlines in the fictional story highlight the clash, analyzing every word of T.I.'s statement. Fans and supporters flood King Harris's social media, sending encouragement and advice, which creates a mix of relief and pressure for the young artist. King Harris finally becomes aware of the scale of the situation. He feels a mixture of surprise and gratitude, realizing how much T.I. cares for him. Scenes show him reflecting quietly, thinking about the responsibility that comes with fame, and making a mental promise to stay focused on his craft. This moment humanizes him and shows the emotional side of the story, making the audience connect with his journey. T.I. meanwhile, steps back slightly to focus on his work. He spends time mentoring King Harris, giving advice not just about music, but about handling public scrutiny, criticism, and the weight of words in the digital age. Conversations with friends or his team show a sense of relief, but also lingering vigilance. He knows that influence comes with responsibility, and situations like this can resurface anytime. D.L. Hughley's fictional reaction adds a final layer to the falling action. He may post a lighthearted response or reflect privately on the power of predictions and commentary. This keeps the story balanced, showing resolution without making anyone look villainous, and emphasizes the human, realistic element of the narrative. By the end of this segment, the conflict has been addressed, lessons are learned, and relationships are strengthened. The story is calm but thoughtful, giving the audience a sense of closure while keeping the emotional weight intact. The story concludes with a sense of closure and reflection. T.I. and King Harris are shown in a calm, positive environment, working together in the studio. T.I. is mentoring King Harris not just on music, but on life, decision-making, and handling public attention responsibly. King Harris listens intently, absorbing lessons about reputation, influence, and resilience. The bond between them is clear, protective, guiding, and supportive, showing the audience that even in conflict, meaningful mentorship and care can emerge. The digital storm has quieted. Social media activity slows, leaving only thoughtful reflections and supportive messages. The fictional headlines fade into smaller features about King Harris's music and growth, rather than speculation or controversy. The story highlights that while words can have power and influence, taking a measured, thoughtful approach can guide situations toward a positive outcome. T.I. himself reflects on the situation privately, thinking about responsibility, the weight of public opinion, and the importance of standing up for others. The audience senses a sense of personal growth and understanding, not just for T.I., but for King Harris as well. There is no lingering hostility. The story ends on a note of maturity and reflection, reinforcing the themes of mentorship, accountability, and the real-life consequences of words in the digital age. Finally, the story closes with a subtle hint of optimism. King Harris continues his work with renewed focus and purpose. T.I. remains a guiding presence, and the audience is left with a realistic, professional, and satisfying conclusion, showing that even fictional conflicts can have meaningful lessons and human resonance. The storm finally settles, but its impact is still clearly felt. T.I. and King Harris are shown in the studio, surrounded by instruments, recording equipment, and scattered lyric sheets, a space that represents creativity, growth, and focus. T.I. is guiding King Harris not just on musical techniques, but on understanding the pressures of fame, the weight of public opinion, and the importance of making thoughtful choices. Their conversation is calm but deeply meaningful. T.I. shares personal anecdotes, lessons he learned from his own career, and moments when the public's words affected his decisions. King Harris listens carefully, occasionally nodding, realizing that mentorship is about more than advice. It's about responsibility, foresight, and trust. Outside the studio, the digital world has quieted. Social media activity slows down, leaving mainly supportive messages, fan reflections, and people discussing the positive aspects of King Harris's talent rather than speculative predictions. Fictional headlines in the story now highlight King Harris's growth as an artist and his dedication to music, showing a shift from controversy to achievement. This transition emphasizes a key theme. Even when words and predictions can be damaging, thoughtful guidance and protection can redirect focus toward growth and positivity. T.I. reflects privately, maybe sitting in a quiet corner of his studio, thinking about the responsibility that comes with influence. He understands that defending someone isn't just about words, it's about actions, time, and mentorship. The story emphasizes that influence is a powerful tool that can shape lives for better or worse, and those who wield it must do so carefully. This inner reflection gives T.I.'s character depth, showing his growth, patience, and understanding of the stakes involved in public life. King Harris, meanwhile, is more mature and focused. Scenes show him writing lyrics, practicing verses, and brainstorming new ideas with a renewed sense of purpose. He's aware that the world can misinterpret words and predictions, but he now has guidance to navigate challenges thoughtfully. His confidence is quiet but steady. He is no longer just reacting to speculation, but proactively shaping his own path. The resolution also touches on D.L. Hughley's fictional reaction, completing the story's circle. He might share a reflective comment or a lighthearted acknowledgement, showing that even outspoken commentators can reconsider the weight of their words. The story makes it clear that the conflict was never about winning or losing, but about understanding responsibility, influence, and the real-life impact of words. Finally, the narrative closes on a hopeful, professional, and emotionally satisfying note. T.I. remains a mentor and guiding presence. King Harris moves forward with growth and purpose, and the audience is left with a sense of resolution, reflection, and optimism. The story reinforces its core lessons. Mentorship matters, words carry real consequences, and even fictional conflicts can mirror life lessons about guidance, responsibility, and personal growth.